What's up guys, and welcome to another not so classic, although becoming a lot more classic due to popularity, episode of Parkour Journeys. Thanks for joining me again. Today I'm going to go over my 5 top tips for recovery from parkour or any sport in particular. This is just going to be how to recover after you've had an intense training session and you want to be ready to rock again as soon as possible, because as we know, the faster you can recover, the more effort you put into your rest and recovery, the more you can train, the better you can get, the faster you can progress, and that's all good stuff that we want to do. So let's crack into it. So as you know guys, on this channel I like to cover things from my personal experience. Whilst we're going to go over some of the scientific aspects of rest and recovery, these are going to be tried and tested methods from my personal experience, which I spend a lot of time focused on how to make sure that I can recover properly. And if you watch this channel, you know that I spend an intense amount of time on optimizing myself and optimizing my training regime so that I can get the very best out of myself. And I'm one of the only people in the parkour community talking about this kind of thing, and I really want to put that message out to people and help you understand why it's important to take care of your body, to take care of your mind. There's plenty of other videos on this channel about why that sort of thing's important, but today we're going to go over rest and recovery. I'm going to do a deep dive on my 5 top tips for recovery, why I use them, how they benefit me, and how they can benefit you, why you should be using them. And stick around to the end because we've got a couple of bonus tips for you as well. So my very first tip, and it comes as not necessarily a recovery technique but a recovery strategy, and that is that you need to analyze exactly how much you can work and then plan appropriate rest days. So a lot of people, and what I used to do when I was younger, is basically just sort of work as hard as I could, or like go out and train and have a load of fun, and then sort of take a few days off until my body felt okay, or until someone else was training again, and then I'd go back out whether my body was ready to or not, whether I'd taken too long of a time off or too short of a time off, I didn't really even know. Didn't plan it around other things like my workouts, which I'm using for strength gains into the parkour, into the athletic ability. I didn't plan it around other kinds of activities like rock climbing, things like this. And then what starts to happen is your body is just like getting a bunch of mixed signals. It doesn't know when it's supposed to be recovering, and it doesn't know how much work you're going to be doing before you take a recovery day. So what you want to do is find an appropriate work amount for you. So think about all the different types of activities you do. If that's just parkour, that's great, but say it's parkour and you've got a bit of rock climbing in there, and you've got like say some upper body sessions for working on your climb ups and some lower body sessions to work on your legs. You don't want to be putting your leg workout right before a parkour session. So what I would recommend is finding a few specific days throughout the week that you're going to train parkour in the same schedule every single week, and then take those days, because that's your most important activity, or I'm presuming it's your most important activity. You want to prioritize that and find out what days you're going to be training, and try and train on those same days every single week. Because from there, what you can do is you can plan your conditioning sessions around that, and then your recovery sessions around that. So say for example, you do parkour on a Saturday and a Tuesday, right? So you do your parkour on a Saturday, you're probably going to want a recovery day on the Sunday. You can probably fit in a light upper body workout on the Monday, and then you're ready for training again on the Tuesday. You're going to maybe want a recovery day on the Wednesday, and then you can fit in your leg session on the Thursday, ready for another recovery day on the Friday, and then another parkour session on the Saturday. These are just example numbers. You might be able to train way more than that. You might need to take more days off than that. You have to listen to your body, and you have to plan a program around what your capabilities are. And then from there, you can slowly increase how much work capacity you have. So you might be able to increase your leg workouts to twice a week, and you might be able to fit those in different places so that you're ready to train, but you've also fit in extra workout days. The point is that you need to analyze how much work you're doing, how much you can take, and then how much recovery you need before you're ready to hit the next session. Because if you're just like, oh yeah, I'll train like a Saturday and then a Sunday, and then I'll just have the week off, that's not going to give you the maximum amount of recovery between training days, and it's going to give you too much recovery on the outside of the training days, right? So you've got not enough recovery in between training sessions and then too much before you come back round to the start of the week again. So that's my first tip, it is to make sure that you have your training program regimented, scheduled at least a little bit so that you understand how many rest days that you need to take off, because you obviously need to be taking rest days, and it shouldn't be dictated by whether or not someone is out training that day, because that's just not optimal for you as an athlete. If you're going to take yourself seriously as a parkour athlete, that's not what's optimal. Even if you're just doing this for fun, which I completely understand, you still want to make sure that you're resting properly and recovering properly, because if you don't do that, you're not going to progress as far as you want. You're going to expose yourself to more injuries because your body's not recovered. Because what happens is, say for example, you go training on a Saturday and then like you've used all of your muscle power, they're all, you know, it's broken down and you're sore the next day, and then you go train anyway. You're going to expose your joints to a lot more impact because your muscles aren't there to take the load when you're doing your jumps, for example. Does that make sense? By the way, guys, if you are new here, please do consider subscribing. What we usually do is take you around from town to town and go over different ways of training, train with different people, different places, and explain to you what we're doing along the way. I basically cut the crap, get to a point where we've got no filter between me and you, and I tell you honestly how I'm feeling, what I'm doing to get the results that I'm getting, and what I'm doing to overcome mental barriers as I go. I've been getting some great feedback from a lot of people who are saying that it's really helping them to understand these different ways of thinking about things, and that they're taking themselves a bit more seriously as athletes and things. So please do consider subscribing, because we've also got information like this where we'll do sit down videos and I'll explain to you all of the stuff that I've been learning recently, because it's my passion to dive deep into things like how to look after your body, how to look after your mind, how to get the best out of yourself and become the best person that you can be. So I'm going to relay as much of that information to you guys, and I think that it's something that's really overlooked in not just the parkour community, but in a lot of communities. So hopefully I can help with that, and I hope that you get something out of this. So if you've just found this channel, please do consider subscribing. Subscribe now, don't miss out, don't let us get fallen back into the back end of your YouTube where you don't think about it anymore and then you miss out on this content. So subscribe now. Active recovery is king. So this is my top tip number 2. Lots of people think that a recovery day should involve just sitting on the sofa or just like relaxing, and don't get me wrong, you should definitely be relaxing and in a relaxed state, but you still need to be doing active recovery. This is recovery through lightweight, non-impact movement, such as cycling or yoga or swimming, something like that. I personally usually go on a bike ride after a training session, and I'll go and do some yoga the day after as well. The main point of active recovery is that you need to get blood flow to the muscles to help them recover. So if you sit on the sofa all day and your body sort of seizes into this kind of rounded sofa position, you haven't stretched, you haven't opened yourself up, you haven't allowed fresh blood to get to the places that need to recover, then you're going to massively slow down your recovery process. And this is something that I've experienced every single time. If I decide to have a lazy day the next day, it just does me wrong. I need to have a yoga session to make sure that I'm fully stretched out. I've gone through all my ranges of motion and all of the muscles have been used and put fresh blood into, and I go for like a bicycle ride to get my heart rate up and just to get that blood pumping. And I tell you what, man, I feel like 10 times better after I do things like this. It's 100% the way to go. So make sure you get in active recovery. Don't just be sitting around the house. Get into the habit of doing some sort of low impact movement practice after your hardcore sessions. Tip number 3 is to shorten your training sessions to allow you to get more training sessions in. So a lot of people, like I was saying earlier, they'll do one absolutely massive session in a week and they'll train from like 10 o'clock in the morning to like 7 o'clock at night, because that's kind of like a standard accepted training method in the parkour community. Don't get me wrong, it's fun and it's a great way to train maybe when you're like 10 years old, but if you are getting into being an adult and you want to optimize your training like an athlete so that you can do your best, you want to be shortening those training sessions, maybe like 3 or 4 hours, because obviously we've got a lot of rest time between moves and stuff like that. 3 or 4 hours is an optimum time for you to go hard, but not over injure yourself and overcook yourself and lead to injuries through excessive amounts of training. And it allows you to stop early, take 1, maybe 2 days off, and then hit it hard again, rather than having to take like a week off because you completely trashed your body by going too hard and overcooking it, basically. Because once your muscles are in a state where they're like, okay, I'm pretty gone here, and you all know when it is, It's those times just before someone announces a new challenge that you really want to do, and then you get stuck into that and you just make your body do it because you're so caught up in the moment. You need to take that time and just be smart with it and just be like, okay, you know what, actually my body is cooked now. I've been out for 3 or 4 hours. I'm gonna go home, get a good meal and recover so that I can train more frequently, because it sounds like you're training less, but what happens is you can train more frequently throughout the week, and then you get more sessions in, and then you progress faster. See what I'm saying? And that doesn't mean you have to like go home and while your friends are still training. I know it's hard because you want to take part in the challenges, especially when everyone's out and you're having a good time, but you have to remember that you've got to take care of your body first. And I'm always going to tell you that. So yeah, take care of your body first, because you want to be training for as long as you can. You don't want to just be ruining yourself by 3-4 years of silly training, and then all of a sudden, oh, what, I can't move now and I can't do the sport I love. You need to pay attention to this kind of stuff, and the earlier, the better. So shorten your sessions and train more frequently throughout the week. Top tip number 4 is stretching and foam rolling after a session. You want to be stretching immediately after a session. Now I know it's like super common for people to just kind of fob this off and like, oh, I've got to get the bus home or something like that, and it just gets forgotten because you all go to Burger King or something ridiculous like that. But trust me, you want to be taking the time to stretch out. This allows you to go into a parasympathetic state. It calms your body down. You're holding those stretches for 30 seconds or more. You're taking deep breaths and you're slowing your heart rate down. You're getting yourself ready for rest and recovery. You're putting your central nervous system into that parasympathetic state, which means it's not in fight or flight anymore. And believe me, after a training session of parkour, you've jacked up your adrenaline. I don't care how calm you are of mind, you've absolutely jacked up your adrenaline. You're in a serious fight or flight response. And that's why like you'll get to a point, if you push yourself far enough, that your mind will be like, no, I can't do any more of these challenges, because you've just jacked your adrenaline up so drastically. And something like a decent, relaxed stretching session at the end of your parkour session, that's going to do wonders for calming yourself down and putting yourself into that rest and recovery state. Apart from that, also what happens is that your lactic acid will drain throughout the muscles. Lactic acid builds up while you do parkour sessions. It's like a byproduct of the energy used in your muscles, and that needs to be flushed out as soon as possible. What happens to me if I don't stretch after a session is all my muscles slowly but surely seize up, tighten up, especially if we're on a parkour journeys and I have to drive home and I sit in this kind of like, you know, a driving position where your shoulders are rounded and you're hunched over a little bit and you're just moving your legs slightly, your back's in a bit of a weird position. Or maybe you go home on the bus or or the train or something like this. Even if you just go home and just sit down because you're so knackered from the session, your muscles will just seize up in the places that they are. The fibers will start to cross and form lumps, which is why you want to be foam rolling after your stretch session as well. And the difference it makes, like when you wake up the next morning and you've had a stretch, you feel like, oh, okay, my body's been used, but it's still limber, it's still kind of like in a good way. But if you don't stretch, you could wake up and you'll have like a twinge here, or like, you know, like a cramp somewhere else, or like, you know, you're kind of walking around like a mummy. It just feels so weird. And I know that maybe you don't get this yet if you're like sort of 16-ish or even younger than that, but believe me, it starts to come in, especially towards your like 20s. And you need to be paying attention to that. I'm 26 now. These are things that I know you have to do if you want to continue training towards this age, which a lot of you will do. I mean, I know sounds like a really far away place in the future if you are 17, but just trust me, it comes around. Like, it comes around. I'm here, I'm training, I'm 26. I haven't stopped my whole life. I've had to take years out because of injuries that weren't parkour related. They were just poor recovery related or poor technique related. And this is the way to prevent that and allow yourself to hit that steady stride as you get older and older and you get better and better. So take it from me, you need to be stretching after your sessions. Please pay attention to this one. This is a big deal. Stretch after your sessions, make sure it happens. Comment below and let me know if you'd like me to do a stretching routine, like a follow along one that I do after every parkour session, because if that would be helpful, I'll make sure that I get it done for you. One tip that I will just breeze over that I'm not including in the 5 top tips is to make sure that you're taking cold showers, or at least contrast showers. I made a whole separate video on this, so just go and watch that if you want all the details about cold showers, but that's another top recovery tip. Tip number 5 is to make sure that your diet is on point. And I'm not asking you to be absolutely super strict with this stuff, but just going and getting a pizza after a training session isn't gonna cut it. At the very least, you should be having that on top of your recovery meals. So you can still eat junk if you want. I don't recommend it. In fact, I highly recommend not doing that, because you are what you eat. This is your machine, this is your body. What you put into it is the fuel that allows you to do the thing that you love. So you should be putting into it the best foods that you can. And this is massively going to help with your recovery. So you want to be focusing on high protein foods for your recovery, carbs and fats before sessions to make sure that you have enough energy, and then high protein meals after your sessions to allow yourself to recover properly. Just pay attention, do a little bit of research on what kind of diet you should be having and what kind of good meals you can be having to sort yourself out after a training session. Just anything that's sort of high in protein, because your protein is your building blocks to put your body back together again after you've broke it down, and to help you then improve afterwards. Lots of people, I see so many people in the parkour community, on top of eating donuts and sweets and stuff all through their training session, like that's a good idea. They also then finish it all up by all going to get Chinese or something like this. And I'm like, look, I'm all for the friendship groups and the joy of going to get food and stuff together, but just go and get something a little more healthy and try and resist the urge to just go, oh, because I get it, like you've just had a hardcore training session. The last thing you want to do is like think about all these recovery things, but it's what's going to bring you the most longevity, it's going to bring you the most progress, and it's going to bring you the most joy in the sport that you're doing. These are things that they sound like, oh, they're just accessory things to the sport, but it's almost like they're as important to the sport as actually doing it. I think you need to pay a lot of attention to this kind of stuff, because it's going to skyrocket your performance, and you're going to feel so much better in yourself, and you're going to have a clearer mind for doing the jumps that you want to do, and you're going to have a better body to achieve the things you want to do. If you're there going like, why can't I do my climb ups? Why are my climb ups still struggling? But then you do a bunch of climb ups and then you don't eat properly to recover, to rebuild the muscle you need to do better climb ups, then you can kind of see where the chain is being let down. By the way, if you do need help with your climb ups, we have a brilliant tutorial on this channel, so you can click up here, I'll put it somewhere. And if you want help with your climb ups, go check that out. So you can see how this all links together and why you need to pay so much attention to your rest and recovery, because if you don't, then what's going to happen? You're just going to like mash up your body over and over again, never let it recover properly, develop tendon issues, develop weaknesses in the chain of your body that eventually allow you to get injured later when you've finally psyched yourself up to do that big move that you're going to do, and then bang, you like tear an ACL or something like that because you just haven't worked on the proper chain down your body. And I'm more than guilty of this when I was younger, because I didn't have the information there. I'm trying to give you this information so that you don't get injured, so that you can recover properly and get the most out of this sport, because it's such an amazing thing to be doing for yourself. But all of these accessory things are just as important, okay? You need to know how to rest and recover. You need to know proper technique. You need to know how to take care of your body and your mind. So I'm gonna be helping you with that, guys, as we go along. If you have any questions, or anything that you want to know about rest and recovery, or anything else that you'd like me to cover, leave me a comment down below, because I'm really open to doing more and more of these chats, because I'm really passionate about helping you get the most out of yourself and helping you dodge the mistakes that I've made growing up through parkour, and that's what I'm about right now. So I'd really like to do that, and I pay a lot of attention to it. I study it deeply, and I will be giving you the best information I can. I don't just read things, I live it every day, and I'm gonna show you how to live it too. So I've got 2 bonus tips. The first one is that if you have access to a sauna, this is gonna be massively helpful for your recovery. I'm so happy that the gyms have their sauna open again. I've been using that every single day. Essentially what a sauna does, if you use it correctly, is it puts your body under stress, which allows your growth hormones to be triggered, which allows your recovery process to go faster, as well as loosening off your muscles because of the heat. So it's a hardcore combo that really does push your body to recover itself faster. I notice a massive difference when I'm using a sauna. So if you do have a local gym that's got a sauna, I really recommend jumping on that one. And then the second bonus tip is to take on meditation. If you've not done meditation before, or you think it's kind of woo-woo, just think about it in a practical sense. The idea of calming down your nervous system and reducing your fight or flight response, similar to what I was talking about with the stretching, calming everything down after a training session. I usually do like a 20-minute calm down period where, you know, you focus on your breath. Look up meditation. You probably know about it by now. It's a pretty common thing these days, but if you haven't, go and check it out. Maybe I'll do a video on just meditation. Let me know if you'd want something like that. But the idea of doing a full body scan where you release all the tension in your muscles all the way down, it really helps you get into a more recovery state. It helps you to be less like, you're not so much like this, and you're not as tense, and you've released, you've gone into your release muscles, you've relaxed, and you're going to allow yourself to recover far quicker because you have less stress hormone running through your body. So those are my 5 top tips. I really hope they helped. I hope you enjoyed this video, and let me know if you want to see more videos that are talking like this. Please do consider subscribing if you've just found this channel, and go check out some of our other stuff, because yeah, it's just a whole load of learning and entertainment all over the channel, all to do with parkour, and yeah, can help you whatever you're doing. So thanks very much for watching, guys. I appreciate every single one of you. We're about to hit 4,000 subscribers, which I'm super excited about. So thank you to every single one of those, and I'll see you on the next one, Tuesday, 4:30, every single week. Done.